Hello, folks. We will be doing the collaborative review for the Manila yoga release. Today, we are going to focus on the multiple subnets feature. I don't know, if you we have split this meeting in two sessions. We have basically the core part that is going to be discussed today, and on next Thursday we are going to review the both container and OTAP drivers. So yeah, I think we presenters will be Felipe. So Felipe is going to present his the changes he implemented in the core side of Manila, and that's basically it. So Felipe, if you can start, maybe I don't know, folks, do you prefer to start with the demonstration? I probably, yeah, and I'm not like so used to how you do the what you prefer to start with, but I would say like demonstration will be.
I think we can start with the demo, so we can see the feature working. Then we go to the code.
Yeah. Okay. So Felipe, please, folks, if you can just if you can add your names to the attendees list in the Etherpad, that would be nice. And yeah, so go ahead, Felipe. Thank you.
Hi, folks. I start sharing my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Nice. So before showing the demo, I just pass through an intro. This is a basic intro to make sure that everybody knows what we are talking about. So this feature is touching in four Manila concepts that everybody must know to understand what is going on. First one is share network, which encapsulates interaction with the OpenStack network source. The second one is the network subnet, share network subnet, that is over the share network and contains the actual network information. It's like the neutron net and neutron subnet ID. And the other important thing is the availability zone. It's a name that provides a loose, flexible, and conceptual representation of physical storage resource. So when we have the availability zone, we are thinking about in the same region, the same physical region. And the final one is the share server, with Manila abstraction support multi-tenants, so-called we know as GHSS mode, so driver handling share server. It requires a share network and lives on AZ. So this is the main concept that we are using during this feature. So what do we have in the current Manila design? When you set up a share network, it can be configured with one single share network subnet for each availability zone. So if you have like 4 availability zones, we can have 4 subnets, one for each AZ. And as a result, the share server created in AZ with a share network will be configured with the single subnet that is in the AZ of that share network. So if this share server is created in AZ using a share network, we will see which subnet is in that AZ, and the share server will be configured with that subnet. So if the user tries to add a subnet for a share network in an AZ that already has a subnet, the Manila API will deny. So it cannot add a new subnet for pre-existent for AZ that has subnets. So I added a simple example here. So we have a share network 1, AZ1, that has the subnet 1. In the AZ2, we have the subnet 2. So a share server created in AZ1 will be configured using subnet 1, while a share server created in AZ2 you use the subnet 2. So it always one subnet per AZ, and you cannot have more than one. That's the current design of Manila. And we are proposing change this with a new design, which can allow share network be configured with multiple share network subnet for each availability zone. So the share server must be configured with all subnets of the share network in its AZ. So if in a AZ we have 4 subnets configured, when we deploy the share server, it must be configured using the 4 subnets. If one of them fail, the share server setup will fail as well. And finally, the user has the ability to add share network subnet to an unused share network AZ. So like if you have a share server you in a subnet, an AZ with like one subnet, the user can go there and add a new subnet for that AZ, and it will trigger an allocation update for the drivers. So all pre-existent share servers will configure allocations from the added subnet. So we have basically here 2 main features. One is have the ability to configure a share network with multiple subnets per AZ, and the other is add or update allocation of a pre-existent share server. So 2 main features that we developed during this release. So I will show a demo of this using the thumb driver, just to show how the flow works. So I have deployed here an environment using the latest release, and I also applied my patch, the patch with the multiple subnet support. Show here. I have here just to confirm. Yeah, it's running with this change. And I also configured, we can see here there's, sorry. I have configured here, there's 2 backends. Yeah, I have 2 backends, one pull each one. It's a dummy backend. So we have the alpha and beta backend. Also, we can see that we have here so here have 3 availability zones. It's Nova, Manila Zone 1, and Manila Zone 0, and Manila Zone 1. So I have 3 availability zone, and I will create. I will be using the standalone. It's important. We are using the standalone plugin. So I will be creating an share network called like net test. Okay. As we know, when it's create a net, it comes with an if I did like I didn't pass availability zone to it, so it creates a subnet using the availability zone none, which means that this subnet is used as a default. So when you create a share in availability zone that doesn't have any subnet, it will be using this subnet. So I will create a subnet create, and then I think it's the name. It's called net test, and then I will be passing zone. I'll be using like the availability zone 0. So I will configure a share network with 2 subnets. Just make sure. Okay. Oh, yeah. So now we have 1 subnet in the Manila Zone 0, and I will be creating another. Yeah. So if I see this share network now, share network show net test, we can see that now we have 4 subnets. 3 of them, sorry, we have 3 subnets. 2 of them is on Manila Zone 0. So we have this one, and we have more one. This, let me see here, none, and the last one should be dated Manila Zone 0. So we see here that the subnets in Manila Zone 0, they have 2 subnets. So now we can, I create a share in this zone using driver handling share server. So it will be using 2 subnets to set up the server. So I use create, let's see if I have here. What's the name? It's net test. Net test. So it's net test. Yeah, the name of the network is net test. Share type JHSS true. The name is S1, and availability zone isn't on 0, just to make sure that the share will be adding this availability. So I will be creating this. Let's just wait. Let's see, Manila list. Okay, the share is available, and we can see that there is a share server, and this share server was configured using the 2 subnets. Yeah, so here there is the first allocation. For Drum driver, it reports that it requires 2 allocation for each subnet. So I keep this as before. So 2. So we have the 2 allocation from the first subnet, and the other 2 from the second subnet. So I have 2 allocations. Actually, 4 allocations, 2 for each subnet. And now we can also, as I said, we have another feature that enables user to add allocations for the pre-existing server. So I will be adding a new subnet for the AZ, and it will be triggering allocation, update allocations for this share server. So it's just like a share network subnet create, the same command. So I'm not adding any commands, new commands. It's the same command. I'm just changing the way it's interpreted by it's understood by the Manila. So the Manila, I will see this as a new update, because there are some servers in this AZ. So
Felipe, just interrupting you for a sec here.
No problem.
I know we don't need neutron networks for the dummy driver to work, but it should ignore neutron network information, right? So in theory, you could be providing some neutron net IDs and neutron subnet IDs along with your shared network subnet create here.
Yeah, it could. I'm not passing because it's ignoring. It's used the standalone. So I'm just making it easy, just passing without neutron net ID and neutron subnet ID. Yeah, but we could.
Okay. So on your CLI side for this change, there seems to be nothing so far, like nothing that you need newly.
No, just bumping the API. Choose the newest API 2.69, and yeah, I think there is a small fix on the show command server, but nothing adding new commands or change the way that commands are used.
Awesome, thanks.
So here's, if you see now the share nature server. If you show the share server, you see now the share server has 3 blocks of allocations. The previous 2 1 and 2, and the newest one allocations. So it update the allocation for the share server. And another important thing that we change is this share network subnet IDs. Before it's a share network subnet ID, but now it says IDs because it's a list of subnets. Even with the single one, it's a list of one element, but it's now a list. So it's a kind of major impact on the way that we interpreted the data from the share server. So, and another thing is the pool. Another thing is we are adding here a new column called NetApp allocation update support. So the share server has the information saying if it support or not updating the allocation. It gets this from the driver. So if the driver support this, the share server will support, otherwise it won't support. So it's true because the dumb driver supports this. And we have this same share network show net test. We have added this to the share network as well, network allocation update support, but it's not getting from the driver, it's getting from all share servers in this share network. So if all share server reports that it support allocation update support, the share network will support. If at least one doesn't, the result will be false. So the entire network cannot update allocations. So it can only update allocation if all share server support this feature. And finally, we have this the pool list. So we can see that pool list detail. Have here two new capabilities here. Network allocation update support. So the driver will report if update this, and share server multiple subnet support. As I said, there are two features being implemented here. Set up in a share server with multiple subnet, and another one updating a pre-existing share server with a new subnet. So the driver has the opportunity to inform the support for both, with this and with this. For them, it supports both. And yeah, I think that's it for this small demo. It's just showing how this feature works. And do you have any question regarding the demo? Nope.
Typing it out in the doc, but I can read it out to you. Yeah. Okay. So this is pretty awesome. I like the UX has not changed, and it's pretty intuitive. So but some part of the intuitiveness is going to be about how the I mean, that logic that you mentioned, that if a share network has to show that network allocation update support is going to be true, it's going to be an aggregate of all of the share servers. Even if one of the share servers is not going to support it, it's not going to have that attribute. But how does an end user know? They can inspect their share network, yes. But is there anything else? Like, are you making this a common capability on the share type that is exposed to the end user or not?
You mean the share server?
On the network allocation update support, like from the get-go, can I know that my networks can be updated as a regular unprivileged user?
No, when you trigger the update, the API will look this and just report as it cannot be updated because on one of the share server in this share network doesn't support this update. But there's no way to trigger a check command. We have an idea of doing this, but we haven't. But we can see in the code how it would affect, and we can see if we think that it's good for the UX, we could add this for the API. There's no problem to add like a check, and it will not only checking this, but checking all other things relate to the update. There are more things that we need to check. One of them is this support for the share server, but there are other things. And we could add a check if everybody agrees. I don't see, I can see that it would affect much our code. It's just about adding a new API and change this in the CLI to have this. Yeah, very straightforward, but we could add this.
It kind of makes me want to ask that other question, but I'm still looking at, all right, so I'm creating my resources. I want to know beforehand if I have the ability ever, like let's say I'm this large user of this thing, right? Like, so I'm right now not anticipating any stuff, but it would be nice to know from the get-go that I have this support. So the way that would work is the administrator tells me to use a share type that always picks some backend with network allocation update support, right?
Yeah,
that's the idea. Okay, and we are not exposing it to the end user, so this is not one of those tenant visible extra specs. So it's communicated out of band, and maybe that's okay. I'm just trying to play it out. So you're probably updating the description of the share type or something, saying this allows network updates. Should you use this share type and stuff? So as long as I'm using share types of that nature along with my share network, I'm going to be getting. I'm going to be sure that the update is always supported. Okay, so that's not terrible. That, yeah, then I mean that's the next part which you were mentioning, which is what happens when an update is being made, but it cannot be fulfilled by one of the share servers.
Yes, you meant if we can trigger if we trigger a update and it fails during the process, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
you're going through the list of share servers, you're probably firing off to different share backends. The request.
Yeah, actually, what we do is we show this during the code. I don't have this to demonstrate, but when one of the share servers fail, we put all resource in that. It's the same flow as we have to the security service update. So all resource in this share service goes to the error state. So it goes to the error state, and it's up to the administrator to fix this. In the end, the share network when you start the update, the share network goes to the updating state, and when it finishes, either by error or success, the share network comes back to the active state, and the administrator must go to the storage and make sure that the share server that failed will match with the update. So after doing this manual process, it goes to the share server, and the ones that failed, it goes there and reset the state to active again. So we don't handle this. It's up to the administrator fix when errors occur.
So, so the share server and the resources are going to error, but the share network will also go to error. Is that what you said?
No, the share network
will just go back to active.
Just go back. We don't have the error state on the share network.
Yeah,
I could add, of course, but I just follow the pattern that we had before, and we just as we had in the spec this idea. So the idea is rely on administrator to guarantee that everything is correct before setting back the share network for the share server for active state. But the share network is not blocked.
I see. It kind of makes sense, but there is one part of this I think that can be preempted. But I'm not sure how we would even do that. I guess that would be the. So right now, I mean, you're probably going to take us through the code and show us this at when you update it. we are going to figure out what are all the shared servers right in the API layer, and make RPC requests to all the backends that are handling these shared servers to go claim their network allocations and then perform this update, right? That's kind of what will happen, the general flow. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think in case there is a way that we can predetermine that, I mean, if the failure is going to be on Manila core. Now, what the things that are happening in the Manila core are, we're going to ask the backend how many allocations that it needs, and the backend tells us how many allocations, and then we ask Neutron, in case Neutron is involved in the picture, to make X number of allocations. Now yeah, that's going to be a little tricky because
Yeah, we can go through the code, and we will reach this part of the code, and then we see there, and we can see what is going on, and we can try to find a better solution for this. But in the code, it's easier for us to look how it's implemented. Just to one thing that I forgot to mention, it also has a scheduler. It changes the filter, the availability zone filter. I showed this in the code as well. And now it will just taking backends in account that fill the share network requirement. Like in this example that I showed, I create a share network. I create a share using share network in availability zone. In this availability zone, the share network has a multiple subnets. So when the scheduler will select the backend, which will make sure that this backend has support for share server multiple subnet support. Those that don't have this support will not be used, will not be filtered. Will be blocked in the availability zone filter. Just to make sure that we are not like triggering a multiple subnet share server setup in a backend that doesn't support this. But here we don't have a backend that doesn't support this feature. I manually test this, changing this support for false and doing the test. So it was the way that I test this scheduler implementation. Nice. So we can move on to the code part, and we can start seeing the chains, and we can discuss more there. Just here. Just disconnect because my VPN, just connect my VPN. It's getting a bit unstable. Nice. Okay, so let's move to the code part. We can start from the easiest one, which is the Python Manila client. So I just show that there are no much changes here. Like we just bump it to the version that we have now. And we also add here small changes, just because we now the shared server, the field is no more share network subnet ID, it's share network subnet IDs. And the code use these fields to parse the object sent back from the server. So it's just matching what the server is now sending back when the version is 9.8 or upper. So this code is pretty simple. And the base patch that's doing the card changes have a lot of changes. I think we can start from the B part database because there's an important change here. As we see the share server, before this change, the share server always have one share network subnet. So we have a relationship, and one shared network subnet can have many shared servers. So we have a relationship like one to many. And now with this change, we are moving to many. So one shared server can have many subnets, and one subnet can be on many shared servers. So this makes the important change in the database. I add this new table called share server, share network subnet mappings. I also removed this share network subnet ID from share servers because the mapping now will be here in this new table. I fixed some queries with this new DB design. I add migration and upgrade Alembic. This is not, yeah, because when you have a environment, when you migrate to this new version, we need to fill this new table with the share network subnet ID from the old one. And I also add this share network subnet ID to network allocations. We don't have this, and I add because now I want to know for each allocation, I want to know which subnet it came from. Because before this change, it's easy to know because if there's a shared, if this network allocation has a share server ID, we know that all allocation comes from the same share network subnet ID. But now we don't know in which subnet ID it came from. So I need to add this for each allocation. And also when I migrate to a new version, I need to add this migration for filling this new field. So going to the code, we have here in the model. Okay, network allocation update support. I add to the shared network entity. It's an aggregation of shared server network allocation update support. So it's as simple as that. And for the shared network subnet, we changed the way that we collect the share servers. So now we are collecting from share server, share network subnet mappings, no more from the share server, as it was before. So it's doing a join in another table. And also the back half changed. So now when you are accessing a share server, you're no more accessing a field called share network subnet, but it's a field called share network subnets because it's a list of subnets on the share server side. And it will impact on the code this a lot because all reference that trying to access this will fail. So I already addressed this. So I need to access this new name when you're accessing share network subnet using share server. On the share server side, I dropped this column, share network subnet ID, and I add this new column, network allocation update support, just a new column, default false. So all pre-existent share servers will have false. So the default will be false when it's already deployed. The newest one will follow the driver support for this. So when you create a server, this field will be filled with the driver support. And finally, we had before field here subnet IDs. I had here subnet ID because I dropped this field, share network subnet ID. And now I keep this, but the share network subnet IDs. Again, we need to make sure that all reference for the share servers is now accessing this field, and this field is a list of share network subnet IDs. I get this from the mapping as well. So I do a join here to collect this share network subnets that share server has. And we have a share network subnet mapping. This is a new table that I had to map the many-to-many relationship. And finally, last one, I add the share network subnet ID to network allocations. Now, if I have a shared server, I want to know which allocations came from which subnet. I want to understand and to know based on this allocation which network subnet ID it is. it's nullable true just because admin allocation doesn't have subnet. So some allocations, like when label is admin, it may not have any subnet, shares network subnet, which is from the Manila entity. Nice. This is the change for the model. And as you see, it will impact a lot of code because we are changing some fields, and we are also changing the way that the things are mapped with share server and subnet, shared network subnet. This is one. And then we have.
Hold on. You didn't the backref work? Was there a real need to introduce the share network subnet IDs? I see that you're doing some processing, but the you already you also had a backref up there in the share network subnet table.
Here you meant?
Yeah, exactly.
Have,
right. So you're creating a backref there.
I just changed the backref. We have a backref here called share network subnet, which is backref for the share server. So here is the share network subnet. It's backref to the share server, the related share network subnet. But now the share in the share server, it's not a share network subnet because it's the share server can have a list of subnets. So now I change this to the share network subnets, and I'm using the secondary join to collect this. So
yeah, and that's happening. Okay, hold on. I actually have not used
I had a
secondary.
lazy as immediate. I just keep as before. So
yeah, and that is intentional because we were trying to do we were passing this information to the driver all the time. But I've not used secondary join, so I that's new and interesting to me. But I was saying like line 1090 on the model, you seem to be doing another join on the other side. So when you're picking up share servers, you're also picking up the share network subnets, but you already have that information, right?
This secondary join, it's used for filling the back half with another table. So here, like here, the back half is share network subnet, and I see here that there's a relation 1 to many. So it's the share network subnet will be filled by this join, right?
Right.
So, and here this join is not enough because we have like a one subnet and many servers. But now we need to know for one server what is the list of subnets. So I use the secondary join to fix this problem, to handle this problem.
Yeah, and that might work. I'm talking about line 1090 to 1097.
9 here, this side?
No, on the changed side, 1090, which is all the way in the share servers table.
A little bit down.
1090. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, so I think that is redundant, and I've commented. I mean, I don't think you need that. In case you already have the share network subnet thingy that's getting created by the model. So every time you load share servers, you can actually load it with the allocations. That way you just parse the allocations that you already know about rather than pulling it up again.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I actually add this to, because sometimes you're accessing this share network subnet ID. So I keep the share network subnet ID, but it's a join. So I got your point. So we could, like, instead of doing a new join, we could, when accessing the share server, passing through the share network subnet and collect the IDs based on them, instead of accessing instead of doing another join for this.
Yeah, where
Okay.
you need it, right? So if you need it all the time, it makes sense. But where you need it, you could do a join load directly in the DB API and just do this. And the reason I say this is because I don't know, these backrefs, they're kind of happening all the time, and rather these joins that are directly in the models, we could be end up loading all of the database at some point. That's the fear over here. And imagine now you're like, every time you're loading the allocations, you're also loading the share servers, which is also loading the allocations table again, which is not really a very optimized query. So if you can avoid it, better.
Yeah, makes sense. We can add this as a comment here, and we can handle this problem later.
Yep.
But it makes sense. Another point?
No, that's about it. I think Ashley is not a fan of what you're doing in line 1126. But I'll leave that up to you. We've generally stepped away from having integer IDs, or rather
Here?
want to. Yeah.
Okay. What I did this. Okay, I know what you prefer doing like this. No, this is the same. We have
Yeah.
one.
So what we kind of do, I mean, it's just kind of weird, right? Yeah. We have integer IDs that are like, auto
Here,
increment as well as.
is on a string, right?
Yeah, and the reason is because we like the soft delete logic, which we basically do every time we're trying to delete a resource. We just put the ID in, kind of make it truthy by saying that it is deleted. But with this integer auto increment, we can't do that.
We can do soft delete here, you mean?
No, it'll still be soft deleted, but I don't know what is it that we do. Oh yeah, we end up using deleted as a as a Boolean field, I think. So that's kind of why is that messy? Is just inconsistent, because we also have a deleted as a string field um, in most of the resources. And the way we handle deletions there is we take the ID and we put it in the deleted field to indicate that it is soft deleted but not really deleted. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I got. I just add this as a an
thing
integer
with the
because there's a good advantage of doing this is when I am adding, if I remember correctly, when I'm creating share server, if it's an like integer here, I can just create this. I can just add the relationship here, and the ID will be filled with this. It will be generated. If I remember correctly, if I add this as a string,
you would
I
need to
must.
just create a UUID.
Yeah, there is a problem when we are doing some parts of the code that are adding share servers to the database. It will not work. We need to probably if I add this as a string, we need to do something there. I don't remember exactly what, but I prefer doing this because I follow the first some patterns of mapping I've seen, like here, for instance, it's a mapping table as well. So the map table they are using here. And another reason is because when you are creating with an integer, we can just leave to the database to fill this. Did you get it? So there's some like
there is a convenience aspect to this, but I mean, the thing that you're referring to in the database API, I think we also had a method there that says ensure has UUID or some such thing, which kind of does what you're suggesting. You don't need to handle it. There's I mean, there's a helper if you want to change it, but I'm not going to press on it. I'm just calling out that there is like an inconsistency in our database tables, because some of them are auto increment integers versus some of them are column string 36, right? So it's just something that I mean, it's beyond your code as well, just that we're introducing two different ways of doing that. I don't recall the exact reason why we shifted everything to string 36, but we did that a while ago, and then we seem to be adding more tables with integers. But I can
Okay,
pick that up, but that's not a
we
big
can
deal. Yep. It can be an enhancement later as well.
we can add this as a comment, and we see we can see a way to overcome the issue with automatically increasing the number. We can see a way, but yeah, we can add this as a comment, and we see later. We can start a discussion, seeing what is the best approach here. But that's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice. So move on. Any other point? Just for moving. No. Okay. Okay. The API, just in the database API, we just fixing some queries based on this new design. So here, I don't know why I'm adding this field. I think it was added in the past, because I've using this to filter with availability zone. But after I think I changed this, I'm not totally sure. I think this is not more necessary. It's not more required. This I would just add here. I need to remove this. Okay, the first query is just I want to know, because when you are doing like managing share server using a subnet, I want to know if the subnet that you're passing using the API, the subnet has some symbols. So I just here this query is used for this end. So based on the subnet ID, I want to know what is the siblings that this subnet has. What I mean by siblings is if this subnet, the subnet is in one availability zone, and if there is another subnet in the same availability zone and in the same share network, it means that they are siblings, right? So we just add this query. Here I add another thing like fallback default. By default, it's the share network sub. When you retrieve the subnet in availability zone, if there is no subnet, it will normally return the default subnet. What it is called as default is just the subnets that are not in any AZ. So the AZ is none. It is the default subnet. The previous implementation, it will always when there no results for this availability zone ID, it will try to get the default subnets. But now I'm just doing this if it's passed its fallback default true, because sometimes I just want to know if this AZ has or not some subnets. I don't want to this AZ to return the false. But the default state is true, so it's the same as before. Just some scenarios where I want to just return without default, I change the behavior of this implementation. And share network subnet get by share server ID is just to get the share network by the subnets from a share server. It's as simple as that. Sometimes I need to know this information. I add this here, join loaded, because now it's share network subnets. And yeah, the soft delete. When you delete a share server, I want to delete the related mapping in the share server share network subnet mapping. So if the share server is deleted, the mapping is deleted as well. And I am using the soft delete. as you mentioned, got even using the ID as integer. So I don't know if it works, but it seems it's working.
Yeah, that's the part I was trying to find out if it works at all, because I think our soft deletion logic is depending on the fact that we can insert something into the deleted field. I don't know. I mean, there could be a trie value Boolean. That's kind of what I was chasing. Is there like a trie value Boolean, such as I don't want it to be deleted. I don't want it to be erased from the database, but I can't set this to false or true, right? If it's true, it's gone.
There you go.
So yeah.
Okay.
So let's see if it's not there, then I might ask for you to introduce this with IDs so that we can not perpetuate some of this stuff. One of the reasons why we can why we probably have integers, I remembered, is because of things like metadata and extra specs. So when you have a metadata or an extra spec that's being revived, right? You have the same share type, and you have an extra spec saying foo equals bar, and you went and deleted it, you unset it, and then you want to set it again. We kind of have this logic in the database that goes and checks and kind of rewrites that, because we don't treat the primary key at all in those cases. We treat the key in the table, such as the extra spec key, as the actual primary key. So that revival logic is why we kind of have a integer based ID, because we really don't care. And we don't care about soft deletes for such tables. They can be gone, but that's kind of a anomaly rather than the rule. So I'll go check what the soft delete thingy is doing. You can do, and we can figure it out.
Okay, nice. So okay, move on. There's another query here. Share server get all by host and share subnet. So here it's passing the subnet ID, and before what it does, it just using the column, because there is a column called share network subnet ID. So it's pretty easy to filter this share server. But now we don't have this, right? What we have is I change this to look at the back half using the N. So doing this. And yeah, this is another one that's a bit more complicated. Sometimes you want the share servers based on some filters, and one of the filters is the share network ID. So you want to retrieve all share server that are over this share network ID. The problem here is that now we don't have the share network subnet ID to look. So what we do is I did two joins. Join from the share network subnet mapping to collect all share network subnets, and then the share network subnets that has this share network subnet ID, just like collecting first the share server ID, so all share server ID that match, then the share network subnet ID, and finally filter by the share network subnet with the given share network ID.
That's kind of what I meant. You're always doing this join anyway, so you don't need that immediate load in the model. I mean, that field is not going to be set, but once you do this join, it'll be set. So you might as well just use one join, use it from the API layer.
You meant choose one, like just this one?
Yeah, pretty much what you're doing here. That is fine, rather than using the join that's already in the model. Because I don't know where all we're going to be using that model, and we care about.
Just use this. Just use like two joins when you desire, not all times you collecting the share servers.
Yep.
Actually, you have a way to this to load just when you try to access the field, but I think the lazy immediate, it tries to load everything. Every time you load the model, it loads this join as well.
Yeah,
but I'm not
and
totally sure.
immediate is, I don't even know if immediate is any longer a real thing that works, right? Because the lazy field has some values that it can take. Immediate's not one of them. Immediate just resolves to one, which is, oh, if it's true, do something, which means always eager load the whole table. That's what immediate means. So immediate is us trying to make it little reader friendly, I think, and or I don't know, at some point maybe SQL Alchemy had immediate as one of the options, but it doesn't anymore, from what I know. But either case, you're basically eager loading, and you are using that value because when you're creating the model, you're creating a property which ends up looking at the model and getting the value, unless you add an if condition or something saying if not null, um, if null, don't do anything kinds. So you'll kick off that query all the time.
Okay, nice. So move on. The last one is this query. I'm just adding the ability to retrieve the network allocation based on a subnet ID. So I pass a subnet ID, I add this to the filter. That's pretty simple. Because now I have this, I add this to the model. Now the network allocation has the share network subnet ID. So I add this to this query. As default none. So all pass and network allocation get first server request, you keep as before. Just new one, I want to have the ability to filter based on subnet ID. That's all for the queries. We have here just passing, like just passing here in the migration, just passing very fast here, just to see the migration is not very simple because, as I said, we are adding tables and moving data from one table to another. So here I add the mapping table. Then we populate this mapping table using the share servers. So if the share server has a share network subnet ID, I create a row in the mapping table using this share server. And then I also add the subnet ID to the allocations table as it's a foreign key to the share network subnet table. And then I populate this using the share server as well. So I just go there and get all network allocation. If it's not admin, I get the server ID, get the server, and I update network allocation table with this share network subnet ID. So in the end, we have all allocations having their subnet IDs. And finally, add the column network allocation update support to the share server table and drop the share network subnet ID. And that's it. The downgrade do the opposite. I think you can review this in detail later if you find anything here. Any point here? Nope.
Nope. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a pretty big upgrade and downgrade. Should take time to review this.
Yeah, this is a bit complicated. It's not very simple. Just adding column or adding a table. It's adding column, dropping column, moving data from one column to another, and yeah. So it needs a bit more like close the eyes here.
Totally. And as long as you also have a good test, right? You have that test that goes along with it for the data checks.
Yeah. So I think that's all for the. I have here. I just said here to the manage because, as I said, when you migrate to this new release, the share server update network allocation update support will be false, and the administrator has the ability to use the command, the Manila command, to manually update this network allocation update support to true when the drivers support this. So for pre-existent share server, it must go there and manually update this to the correct state, to the true state. Just this. We already have this code for doing this kind of things. I just had the ability to update this capability as well, network allocation update support. Nice. So, okay, that's all for the DB part. Now we can go to the API. The API basically bumped the version to the 2.69. I add ability to allow setting share network with multiple subnets per AZ. Block managing server with multiple subnets. So if it's managing a server using a subnet that has siblings, it will block. We now allow this operation. Allow add subnet for in-use share server. So if you're adding a subnet in AZ that has share server, it will allow and trigger the update. And share network subnet ID is dropped in this new version. I add the share network subnet IDs, which is a list of IDs. And network allocation update support is added to the share server and share network views. It's just this, just going to the code. You see here, okay, bumping the version, adding some comments. Here I just, to the index, in the index of share server, I had the ability when you using the key share network subnet ID, I am looking if this value is in share network subnet IDs. This is one of the part that we are using share network subnet IDs. But yeah, we could get this from the share network subnet, not doing another join. I got your point. But here we are just using the in to check that the value, if one of this subnet is this, we collect this share server. We return the share server for the user. Some things like this, normally we are using the share network subnet to access the subnet for this share server. And now if you want to get the share network ID, I use it to get the share network ID from the first element. This is a tricky part. So I want to get the share network. We don't have the share network ID in the share server model. What we do normally, we access the share network subnet and get the share network ID. And now what I do is I get this from the first element, because all of subnets will be on the same share network. So just getting from the first one. And you see this in several parts of the code, doing things like this, because we don't have the share network ID in the share server. Actually, I thought that we could add this, because it seems that the share network ID could be in the share server model, because now we want to access the subnet just to get the network ID, but it could be in the share server model.
That
but
could be a good improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going back and forth at this point, but I don't see why it cannot be, so that you don't have to do this logic. But I did have a question about 53 to 57. When do you hit that?
Which line, sorry?
53.
53. Here.
Yeah.
This block?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, if you look at before, some codes may not have might not have share network subnets. Here, when it doesn't have any subnet, because if you see the model here, I have the model here, you can see the share server model, it's added the subnet here, the subnet ID is added nullable true. It means that we can have a share server which doesn't have any share network subnet ID.
Then it's getting created or something?
I think the scenario I'm not totally sure, but if you look of the history of Manila, some releases ago, the share network was part of the share server. Then they split this to a new entity called a share server, a share network subnet. And in this previous model, the share network could be false, could be nullable true. So since the beginning, the share network could be true. It means that we can have a share server that doesn't have any share network.
Yeah, no, I can see your point. Like I see why it's nullable true. We just basically default to that, because when we're trying to create database resources, we create them one at a time, right? And it's possible that when we're creating the shared server, although we have the share network information, yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah,
is this just defensive programming on your part? Then we're fine, I guess. Like I was just curious, is there a chance we don't have share network subnets at all for any of this thing? It's
Yeah,
not
I
supposed to
think
happen.
I think currently there shouldn't be like uh, a scenario where we don't have a shared network subnet. Not like if, for example, this nullable true part was implemented just like one of the parts of the database upgrade when we were upgrading from Stein to Train, because on Train we started having shared network subnets. And then as it wasn't created by Manila and we didn't want to generate like UIDs, we left those fields as null. And then the share servers from that could exist like that. But currently, like there wouldn't have like share servers without share network subnets. And I mean, share servers couldn't exist without a share network as well. So I think the share network subnet not being existent in a share server, it's
Not possible
could
in
be
logic.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but it shouldn't happen. But the share network should be there for sure, because without a share network, you won't have like a way to get network allocations, because we will check the share network to see if there are like neutral net IDs or neutral subnet IDs to consume from those network resources, or if we should consume in other ways, for example, like getting network uh, information from the standalone plugin or whatever. So, I mean, share network ID should always be there, I think. There is a chance that shared servers might not have share network subnet ID, but it would be only for shared servers that were existing in a cloud, that were existed before Train, and they weren't touched like at all. So that I think would be the only case that a shared server wouldn't have a shared network subnet ID.
so we need to handle the scenario where share network subnet is not part of the share server, right? Because if the users migrate from the stain, like you said, stain, right? This share server, when it's migrate to the newest version, it won't have this, it cannot have this share network subnet, right? So we can keep doing this, or if you think that we could, like, I got it that newest share server will always have this, but oldest may not have. So
No, I
should
think what he's
we
trying to say is there was a
continue?
migration that added that stuff, so you'll never run into this, I guess. So I mean, maybe when you were coding this, you probably did this via unit tests or something. It's not a big deal, I guess. We can move on, but I was just curious why this ever could happen. Um, but in reality, it should not. We create a share network, we create subnets, and then we create share servers. So we should populate that field,
Yes.
these fields.
Yeah.
And then, like Carlos was saying, the Stein migration adds these fields to, or the train migration adds these fields. So you should never have one even in the database without these.
Got it. Okay, so moving on. I think that's all from this file. Just here getting the net ID and same using share server subnets and nothing else. Uh, Here in the shares and API shares, we have here, I just add this because the scalar is more related to the scalar part, because the scalar, I changed the filter availability zone filter to filter hosts that support the multiple subnet. So here I add the AZ request multiple subnet support map, which will contain the availability zone ID, and if this availability zone ID is required multiple or not. So in the scalar part, when you get this map and we get the availability zone, we know that the user are requesting multiple or not setup. So just because of it's just because of the scalar part.
Hold on, I didn't get that. So you're saying if
to understand this, we need to understand the scalar.
okay, cool.
But
Yep,
then
we can come back to this.
later
Then.
we can go to the scalar and we see how this request, this new field from the request is used.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, now we are in the shared network subnets. Here we have this function validate subnet. This is an important one. This function is controlling the fact that a new subnet, adding a subnet in a AZ that already has one subnet will be blocked. So now I'm just change this function that when like AZ is none, default subnets. If the default subnet is not none, it means that there's some subnets in this AZ. So it's raised on a HTTP conflict. So now it won't raise this exception unless multiple subnet support is requested. So if multiple subnet support is true, it means that this code supports multiple, right? So in the end of the code, it's just checking subnets. So it means there is a subnet on this requested, created in this requested AZ. There is at least one subnet, and not multiple subnet. It means that it won't support this new subnet because there is one, so it will be two, and now it raises. If it is true, it means that this code supports multiple, and even the subnets exist with one element, it won't raise. It will support. It's just to support previous version and new version. It's like just this. And as I said, now fallback is used. So when I got this, when it's not default, is not none, I got the subnets, but I don't get the default one. I just get the subnets in this AZ, exactly this AZ here. So if this AZ has one and not multiple, it raises. If it has one and multiple is supported, it just it returns the subnets. And here we see how it's used. So now when you are adding, here is adding a subnet in the API layer. It's called this validate subnet. And it passes the shared network ID, subnet AZ, and multiple subnet support. So this multiple subnet support is true when the version is 69 or upper. And you will do this, as I said. And with the subnets, this is the subnets in this AZ. And we will see if the subnets exist and subnets in the first subnet, the share servers exist, and the length of share servers is greater than 0, it means that in this subnet, in this AZ, there is at least one share server. So this new creation is triggering an update. This code is guaranteeing that if it gets in this code, it means that the create subnet is an update. Else, it's just a normal create of subnet in AZ that there is no share server. It's just set up in a share server. And here it's triggering an update. And now we get the share servers. This is an important thing. We can get the share servers from the first subnet, because all subnets have the same share server list. So if I want to know which share servers are in the subnet AZ, I just can get this from the first subnet. So I pass down this to the share API layer, and I call this update share server network allocations. I had a note explaining this here, that we can get the share servers from the first subnet, because all subnets have the same share server list. And I call this the update share server network allocation for the share API that will validate this request. Any
For
question?
that, you mentioned like you mentioned that all of the subnets are going to have the same share server list, but it should be like all of the share servers within the same availability zone will have the same list of share servers, right? All of the
Yeah.
shared network subnets within the same availability zone only.
Yeah. In the
All
same
right.
exact, in this subnets here, this function validate subnet, we check that this subnet AZ can be added to this this validate subnet function. You check that for this AZ, we can add a new subnet, and also it will return the existent subnets in this AZ here. It's a AZ name, right?
Oh, cool.
So it
Yeah.
will validate
Got
that it can be added to the AZ, and we return what is the current subnet, which is this return here.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
And using these subnets, we collect the share servers. It's a bit tricky, this code. Any question?
Nope.
Nope.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
so
The only thing I
this
guess
is the
is
change.
your update share network allocations has a services down exception.
Sorry?
The update share network allocations, you're handling a service is down exception.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because this API, this code will do some checks. So it will check that, like, I will show the code, but it will check that the share network supports the update. It will check that every share server is in active state. It will check that the service is up. So all services that that is using this share network is up, and then it will raise some exception, like service is down, invalid share network, and it will return to the user. This part of this code handles the problem that before we are not accepting the adding subnets more than one subnet per AZ, and with this new code, it's accepting adding new subnets when the version is 69. And when there's share server, it's not only creating database, the new subnet, but it's also passing to the share API layer to do some checks and trigger the required updates to the drivers that has share servers. Yeah.
I'm just observing something that you probably were modeling this after the security service update logic, and I don't recall why we didn't call that out at that time, because this is a tenant-facing feature. So that service is down with that HTTP conflict is probably the wrong thing we want to send to an end user, right? Like they can do nothing if the service is down, and for them they just care about the Manila API. They don't really know what's behind it. So I mean, just like what you're doing on lines 197, 198, 199, and 200, that is probably what we want, which is you log the error for an administrator that somebody's tried to interact with a service that is down, and you let the end user know that we can't handle their request, and don't give them any more details than they require, right? Could not add it. That's kind of what they'll go with, and they'll probably talk to the administrator out of band of Manila, for instance. But I kind of see that we had this logic even in the security service update stuff. We probably didn't catch it at the time in code review. But I've left your message for this one.
Okay, we can do this way, no problem. I just, as you said, I just use the same flow as the security service update. So when the service is down, we raise this, and the invalid share network, we raise this, and for all DB errors, I add this log. But we can change this. I don't see problem.
Hey folks, we are kind of like out of time, but if you would like to stay for like a more 15 minutes or so, I don't think that would be a problem, but would like just to check your agendas and see like if we should continue it or move to, we have a second session occurring on Thursday, so maybe like as probably we are not going to be able to complete the core part today, but we could like continuing on our next session. But like, would you guys would like to stop, or should we continue for a few minutes more?
Let's do this. Let's. How about finishing up the API layer? Is this the end of the API stuff? I see another couple of files.
There is
with some
the share.
changes.
Yeah, there is more share networks.
Okay.
I think there's more three files.
Two more files. Okay, so how about we finish that part and call it a day, and we can connect on Thursday. The thing I was going to suggest on Thursday is if you want, we could wrap up the Manila meeting in half hour and jump to the call. That gives you another half hour than the 1.5 hours that you had planned, because it does look like you'll need that much, right?
Yeah, that
to
would
go
be
through
nice.
stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's plan on
Great.
doing that.
Great. Okay.
Nice, works. Thank you. So we can finish the API layer. It's almost done. So in the share networks, I just add here code. When you're trying to, it's just like doing that we have before here. So it's look at neutral net in neutral subnet and get this, and if not, it blocks this update. And now I'm doing the same, but look at the subnets. If there's more than one subnet, I'm blocking the update as well. I cannot update the share network when there is more than one subnet. Just this. And then I get the first one. If its length is 1, I got the first one. And follow the same flow as before. Just because now the subnet that this query, all reference to this query is no more returning an element like here. It's returning a single element subnet. But now this is returning a list. In case this list has more than one, I raise an exception, doesn't accept HTTP bad request. Otherwise, I get the first one and follow the pattern, follow the flow. Just it. Question? Okay. Okay, this is the share servers. I also changed this file in the API layer. As I said there, the main change here is because we
Quick
are
question.
accessing
Your idea for this thing is that you will have, and I probably think to miss this, you have now the ability to add more than one default subnet as well, right? If you don't care about AZs, or you want the subnets to span all of the AZs, you can add more than one default AZ as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That
You
makes
can.
sense with the error message. Yep.
You can do this. Okay, it's from the share server API layer. We just, as I said, we changed the share network subnet ID to be IDs. And because normally I just follow the same pattern that we have here, same code. So here is getting the share network subnet ID. If network subnet ID exists, it gets the subnet, then collects the network ID. So the idea of this code is getting the network ID based on the network subnet ID. And what I do here now is get the subnets, and then network
just make
subnets.
it a property. This is all over the place. So you might as well just make it a property on the database object. Yeah.
And this is getting the network ID based on the subnet. So now I accessing the first one because all subnet have the same share network ID. So I just get the network ID from the first one, and then follow the same as before, no change. Just in fixing the code because of the change in the database. Here is the same. Now when you're calling the share network ID subnets get, it's returning a list, not only one subnet. Here's one subnet, and now it's a list of subnet. And here it's the managing. Yeah, it's the managing. When you're managing and the subnet that the user provide in the command, if the subnet that the user provide has some symbols, so I get here network subnet, it means return the subnets that are part of the same AZ and same network ID. It's like the symbols idea. So if no subnets, it means that there's not valid subnet ID. This network subnet ID is provided by the user, right? In the manage, when you're doing a managing share server. If no subnets, it failed. Same as before. If no subnet, it failed. But now I also add a check here. If the length of subnets is more than one, it also fails. So it means that you cannot manage share servers in AZ that has more than one subnet. That's the check here. And then if there's no more than one, it just have one. So I get the first one and follow the code, the same as before. Because we have the network subnet, the same network subnet here, right? But now the network subnet, first I need to filter, check the list, filter, and it's make sure that there's just one element, and then collect the first one. That's it for managing share server layer in the API layer. What else?
Is there a reason why we're not letting you manage something with multiple networks?
The reason is just because we don't want to. We need to change the API. There is a issue in the API. There's a problem that we need to overcome. It's more like a UX problem because, like, when you're managing a share server, the API receives one subnet ID. And now we are not sure if you will force the user to pass all subnets ID or just passing one. And if this one has siblings, we will managing with all of them. Right?
How do we do that? Like, in the sense, we know the subnets from the OpenStack perspective, but we don't from the drivers, right? Like, there is no way. Yeah, this kind of gets tricky for manage.
Yeah, this is the point. This is tricky in the UX point. We need to see how we will face this issue in the UX view.
Another way would be.
Don't have much time. Sorry, you can go.
Oh yeah, another way would be to specify the shared network ID and then specify the availability zone ID you want. So in that way, we would be able to fetch all of the subnets in the given shared network.
Perfect. We could change. That's I think the best option. We could change the way that the managing is done, instead of passing a subnet ID, the user pass the network and in which AZ the share server will be, right? And then we can accept. But yeah, it requires a change on the API, on the REST API, and how the managing works.
Yeah.
And the client
So
as well.
we don't have time. That's the main point. We don't have time to fix this problem right now because we are like running out of time. Like we like get exception for the feature freeze proposal, right? So we just let this kind of issues for the future, and just in keeping simple now, just accepting as before, just in managing share service with a single subnet. Multiple
Yeah.
we can deliver later. Just because
No,
of
that makes
this, it's
sense.
more
But are
like
you handling it in the unmanaged part as well?
Yep. And I believe that like for sure we could commit for and also implement the managed part maybe for the next release if like that would be a problem. I don't know, like we still need to discuss like
What the
how
UX
big is
looks
this
like. Yeah.
problem. Yeah. So in order to have like at least the basic scenarios that we actually need right now, the idea, and yeah, and basically the idea is to like we can do it in the next release, commit to it, and make sure that the manage is not going to be lost or like unprioritized.
Yeah, makes sense. So what we could do is, I mean, but you would have to manage that even on the unmanaged API side, which basically means that you shouldn't let a multiple subnet share server get unmanaged, because you put that in a bad state, right? You don't have a way to manage it back. So the only way is doing some database surgery, which doesn't seem worth it. So what I would suggest is put a gate on the unmanaged side as well, saying it cannot be unmanaged because of it has multiple subnets associated with it, and that way either that, or if they really forcefully want to unmanage, they have a way to do that by just like going into the database directly, right? Or I don't know, basically just don't let a user trip themselves over because the feature doesn't exist.
Yeah, I believe that makes sense. What do you think, Philip?
agree. You meant that we should not allow managing a share
I'm
server.
managing as well.
Yeah, I thought about this idea, not allowing, but okay, we can, no problem. We didn't code this, but we can add, that's a good improvement.
Yeah, we
can
kind
add
of
this.
discussed that, right, Felipe? And
Yeah.
said that there is no impacting like impacting code in like in the managed part. So we decided to keep the possibility. But yeah, I believe that the best option would be really to block it as well.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
block
it would
it.
be impossible
Yep,
to manage it back. Yeah.
pretty much block it. And I don't know, I mean, maybe we change our minds in a couple of days and we allow that sort of a thing, but with some sort of a force flag or something like that, right? To make sure that it's not done trivially, that it's, this might just be okay. Right, you update your documentation, you update everything, but users are just going to try something. And if it works and it doesn't work when you're trying to put it back, it might be a bigger problem.
Agree.
Does that make sense? Like that should be trivial to add another API parameter that ignores this check on unmanaged, and then you have nothing else to do in the unmanaged path. Like you said, there's not much code to change. There's nothing to change. We just forget about network allocations and all those tables, and that's all there is to it. And we'll still prevent managing a multiple subnet server until the next release.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I guess we agree.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice. Moving on. Just need to here just same as I showed before. Sometimes we are accessing the shared network subnet, and now you should be accessing the shared network subnets and getting the first element to get the shared network ID. Here the same. So yeah. Yeah, this is the view part. It's pretty straightforward. We just add the network allocation update support. Yeah, with the new version. And for the share server view, we add the share network subnet IDs field and the network allocation update support field. And for the subnet ID, we stopped reporting this field in the previous version, which is 68. So starting from 69, this field subnet, share network subnet ID is no more part of the return model. And add share network subnet IDs, just as getting this field from share server, then get network allocation update support from share server. Right? Okay, this is the command manage. I already showed. This is the DB API, nothing, just the layer. This is the migration that I already showed. This is the model. Yeah, that's done from the API layer. We have the share API, which is in the share directory, but it's called from the share API as well. But we can pass through this code because it's a long code, and we can start doing this in the next meeting. And we can start doing just this share. We just need to pass through the scheduler and to the drivers, manager, and the share API, which is this code.
Yeah.
Sure.
For the next session, let's like focus on manager. Maybe the drivers can be reviewed in separately out of this session, since like the change is quite trivial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if we have time for the next session. But if we don't, maybe we should just prioritize the more important stuff.
Yeah, the most important one is the share API here. There's the check before triggering the update, and the manager to do the setup with multiple and to trigger the update. So we can focus on both of them. But yeah, thank you guys. We passed the time, like almost 20 minutes. So thank you. Sorry by doing.
No problem at all. No, this is great. Thank you so much for hosting it.
Thank you, folks. I will be stopping the recording right now. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yep. And let's